Hello, brilliant and embodied souls. My name is Kim. Welcome back to my channel. Have I got a video for all of you today? If you have been up in your feels, traversing the emotional landscape that is the swamp, the abyss, any thorny, difficult places, I hope this video will support you. I want to look at oracle decks that meet me in my emotions. A while back, I did a similar video with tarot. I looked at really common emotions, central emotions to the human experience, and shared tarot decks that really help me when I'm in those emotional spaces. Decks, whether they're oracle or tarot, can help us when we're in these emotional spaces because they mirror back to us how we're feeling. I think a big part of emotional regulation is having our emotions validated, feeling like we're seen in our emotional experience. Our decks can help us with that. I think that decks can also help us move in and out of different emotional spaces because these are psychological tools. Tarot and oracle are certainly spiritual tools, but they're also psychological. And I see that time and time again in my psychotherapy practice, where I'll sometimes use oracle and tarot decks with clients, as well as my coaching practice, and certainly, the people who I read the cards for. They can be really potent pathways and doorways for us to move through the uncomfortable as well as move out of uncomfortable emotions into more comfortable emotions. Which leads me to one thing that I want to say before we start looking at the decks. I want to say two things. Maybe three. Oh my gosh. Okay, so in the tarot video, I talked a lot about the function of different emotions. So I'm not going to go into that in this particular video. Please check out that video if you want to, talk a little bit more or learn a little bit more about what certain emotions do for us and why they're really, really important. I will leave a link to that video down in the description box below, which dovetails into the second thing that I wanted to share with all of you, and that is my premise or my understanding of emotions. I don't feel like emotions are good or bad. They are more neutral, and while it is true that certain emotions are more uncomfortable and certain emotions are more comfortable, emotions are here to help us get information. This information helps us navigate our internal and external realities. Without emotions, we wouldn't be able to navigate our lives. And I feel pretty confident about that. Based off of a lot of studies that I've read, based off of, again, just my clinical experience, and building my own emotional intelligence. So I hope that this video serves as a means to continue your journey in emotional intelligence building. I also hope that it's incredibly supportive. The final thing that I'll say before we look at the cards is that all of these decks are mass market. Yay! So I really wanted to share affordable decks today. Strangely, a lot of my oracle decks are actually mass market. I certainly have independently produced oracle decks, but I do seem to have more independent tarot and then more mass market oracle. Okay, let's look at the decks. I'm going to start with the uncomfortable emotions first, and then we'll look at the more comfortable or easeful emotions. To kick things off, I have the Wisdom of the Wild Things Oracle, and this deck really helps me with the sadness quadrant of emotions. So here I'm talking, of course, about sadness, but I'm also talking about grief, shame, uh, you know, apathy, maybe even guilt. So this deck is really wonderful at meeting me in all kinds of emotions already, right? Beware the shame creature. Who, yeah, the creatures in this deck really mirror back to me what certain emotional, like sad, that sadness quadrant like feel like, right? Like embrace the effortlessness. Like I don't know, it's just like this kind of like floating feeling that I get when I look at that particular creature. The color palette is murky. There's a lot of grays and greens, creams, but we do get pops of color, and those pops of color bring delight. This deck really helps me move out of sadness and brings me back into gratitude, reminds me that there's so much beauty and wonder and joy in the world. But yeah, these creatures just have so much wisdom. I'm a big internal family systems practitioner, and these creatures very much remind me of the visualizations that I have done with myself and with clients around understanding the different parts of ourselves, and really give a visual representation of certain parts. So some of my parts like really resemble these creatures. So I feel so seen by this deck. In terms of its personality, it is very kind, very compassionate. The creatures can be a touch creepy, can be a touch bizarre, but I actually really like that. There's a playfulness within this deck. Even though it's really calling attention to challenging things like quiet the anxiety monster. Like how difficult is that, right? So this deck is not shying away from the hard things in life, the difficult emotions and difficult processes that we all have to go through. But it meets that difficulty with a lot of grace, a lot of whimsy, and like a sweetness, a tenderness. Yeah, this is a really special deck, and it's mass market. The messages in the guidebook, are succinct, and don't you don't have to spend oodles and oodles of time to get a pretty quick takeaway from the guidebook meanings. Really, really lovely deck. And this is one of my favorite cards to remember, the whoopee. Oh my gosh, like we all need our whoopies, and in a way this deck is kind of a little bit of a whoopee. It kind of acts exactly like that, bringing comfort and soothing when we might need it. Okay, let's talk about disgust. I'm not disgusted with this deck, don't get me wrong. The Earth and Bone Oracle is a really, really wonderful deck, but we all face moments where we're maybe like disgusted with ourselves, disgusted with others. We really need to confront certain dynamics within ourselves and in our relationships. This deck is really, really helpful for asking me and, those who I read for to slow down and own our experience and really take our time to understand that experience and embrace everything about it, the beauty, the horror, the aliveness, as well as the deadening, or like the deadness. This deck is very insightful, at times a touch provocative. Sometimes the keywords or the key, well, I guess the title and then the keywords, like sometimes they really sync up super well. Like this owl card is a great example. Other times they don't as much. Every once in a while there's an offness to this deck, but again, like that kind of makes me slow down. It makes me cock my head to the side and ask, hey, so what is actually going on here? The guidebook is very on point. It is not a bunch of fluff. You get a very to the point message. That to the point message helps in, again, meeting some of the more in the shadows aspects of being human. Right. It is a deck that wants you to look at things that you don't like about yourself, that you find that you don't like in others, and help you learn and grow from all of that. I think it's a great all-around deck. It can be kind of sharp at times, but it's also a touch soothing as well. There is something soothing to me about all these like skulls, and I guess it's my inner goth. I was never a goth kid. I always thought goths were so cool though, and I guess this deck brings me to a part of myself that I have maybe never felt able to express outside of myself. I don't know. I always love when other people are wearing goth-like things, but I don't know, it has never felt like me. But this deck, I don't know, it meets me in a fantasy self or something like that. I don't know. So that is the Earth and Bone Oracle, and it is by Syrian Shadow. Again, mass market, as all of these decks are. Next up, I have the Talisman Oracle, and this deck is a great one for fear. When I'm afraid, I just really need straightforward answers. The keywords in this deck are just so great. There's tons of animal energy, and there's something about the animals that reminds me that fear is primal and so necessary. I feel very propelled into action by this deck because the guidebook meanings and the keywords and just everything about this deck is about, okay, great, here's the situation, now here's what you can do about that situation. It just feels very proactive. It feels very decisive and interested in helping me move from A to B. It does that with clarity. I just feel like this deck is not gonna keep me in the dark. It's not gonna ask me to do tons of self-reflection in order to understand its messages, right? It just is very straightforward. I really like that. It's a great clarifier deck. if I don't understand something in a tarot reading and I pull out this deck, I get it. I understand what I need to understand pretty quickly. And when I'm afraid, that's the kind of energy that I need. I want to understand what to do. I want to take action. This deck provides exactly that. It is a wise magician who knows exactly what to do when shit's hitting the fan. Yes, a wonderful deck when I am feeling afraid and want to know next steps as to how to contend with my fear. Next up, we have the Lantern Oracle, and this deck is a wonderful deck when I'm feeling surprised, but not in a good way. When I've got a challenging situation that I don't understand, I will pull out this deck. It is confrontational. It is not going to mince words. It's going to tell you right up front, right? Like, you got to melt your mask, babe. If you want to work through the shock of this particular situation, you need to melt your masks. Get real with yourself. Get real with others, you know? So the messages are not always the kindest, the most gentle, you know, the most compassionate. Although I maybe I take that back. The guidebook does have a compassionate bent. You know, it understands that for us to live into our potential and truly step into our power, we're going to have to do some tough stuff. It shows us that tough stuff. So often when I'm surprised, like, you know, I just really, I want the real deal truth. I don't, you know, sometimes, not always, you know, sometimes I need a little comfort. I need a little soothing. You know, I just need I need a warm hug, right? Those warm hug decks that are out there. That is sometimes true. Other times I'm like, no, just wallop me. Like, slap me in the face. I need to, like, really understand what is going on here. This deck does that. And I am so appreciative to have a deck like this. The art is gorgeous. The guidebook is so insightful. It's one of the best mass market decks out there because the insights are not generic. Like, it really feels like the author has wisdom. You know, there's like some earned, mature wisdom coming through this deck. I love it. I love it. Yeah. So the Lantern Oracle is an amazing deck when you just need that hard-hitting advice and insight to deal with something shocking or surprising. On the similar side of that coin, moving into the comfortable emotions, I have the Magical Spirit Oracle. This is a deck that I do turn to when I need a little bit more of that, like, hug feeling if I've been surprised, or when I'm feeling excited. This deck is very sweet and does have a comforting element. It also is empowering. It wants you to recognize how wonderful you are, you know, how magical you are, how wonderful and magical life can be. It is very upbeat. It's got a little sass, which I really enjoy. And I need a little sass when I have been surprised. I am excited. You know, there's a lot of anticipation going on. I could really use some sass, you know? And yeah, there's a jovialness about this deck. It has a really fun personality. This deck is fun loving, most definitely. But there's also something kind of cozy and again, sweet about this deck. I also enjoy its modern feel. It feels very fresh and of the moment to me. I really enjoy the creator's artwork. It's very unique. The guidebook is not like mind blowing. I'd say it's a pretty like middle of the road guidebook. I do enjoy this particular deck more for the art and the empowering messages that are here right on the cards. I feel like this is the type of oracle deck that you don't need the guidebook for. You can just use the cards, get the messages, and move on pretty quickly. And sometimes we just need that kind of oracle deck, again, when we're like really anticipatory and excited and enthusiastic, and but maybe like a touch, like we need a little bit of like uplift. This is a perfect deck to meet those emotional places. Yeah. Next up, we have the Sacred Creators Oracle by Chris Ann, and this is a deck I use when I'm happy. When I'm happy, I want to create. I want to make things. I'm feeling kind of upbeat at this particular moment, right? So I'm here creating this video. I love working with this deck when I need creative solutions, but I also need enthusiasm. Chris Ann's decks are very enthusiastic, or at least that's how I experience them. She strikes me as a very like glass half full kind of person, and that really comes through in this particular deck. The colors are vibrant. They just pop. The words off. So the phrases again are like very encouraging, incredibly positive. There are suggestions in the guidebook, what to do if you're not feeling bliss, for example, or you're really struggling to make waves and be that change maker that you want to be, right? There is solid guidance in the guidebook if you're not feeling what these cards are initially putting out. So this is also a great deck when I'm feeling frustrated or annoyed or impatient. This deck helps move me out of those stuck places into my creative power. And that makes me very, very happy. When I'm able to solve a problem, overcome an obstacle, that thrills me. It's so satisfying. It's one of the things I frankly live for. and this deck is here for that. That is this deck's purpose. It is super supportive to anybody who considers themselves a creative. You don't have to be making art to fall into that category. It's a very enthusiastically supportive deck, and I love working with it for all of those reasons. Next up, I have the Rose Oracle by Rebecca Campbell. This is a deck that I turn to when I am in the ooey gooey feels, when I am feeling very connected and I'm feeling very soft and tender. This is a very beautiful deck. You can feel its softness and its tenderness in the artwork. It is very gentle. It is all about connecting with the divine feminine. So connecting with receptivity, connecting with the love that can be transmuted via the mother archetype. There are definitely references to Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene and that kind of energy, if that's your jam. That's not really my thing. I did get this oracle because I didn't have like a really great hug deck, and it was on sale. Like I got it at one of Hay House's sales, so I didn't pay tons and tons of money for this deck. I was just in a particular mood, right? Like I was in that mood where I'm like, I really want a hug kind of deck. I really want a deck that meets me when I am soft and slow and feeling like very, very connected to a sense of love and grace. Strangely, if I am not in those places that I just described to you, this deck annoys me. So I don't use it a ton because I really have to be in a particular embodied place. Again, like slow, soft, gentle, expansive. If I'm not already there, this deck isn't going to do it for me. Unlike some of the other decks that I have mentioned in this list that help me get to a particular place, this deck I only use when I'm already there. So this is a deck that helps me feel seen and appreciated and understood when I'm in a particular emotional space. Yeah. I'm glad that it's in my collection, but I don't think I will be getting any other Rebecca Campbell decks. I have a few other kind of like, digital collage, soft sort of decks. But I've got that niche within my collection covered. Okay, our final deck is the Solitary Witch Oracle, and this is a deck that I love to pull out when I am feeling peaceful, cozy, serene, and calm. There's just something so darling about this artwork. It is not the typical artwork that I go for. But again, when I'm feeling that serenity, I really want a deck that shows that serenity back to me, mirrors that peacefulness and coziness. I really enjoy working with this deck in the latter half of the year, so I tend to pull it out, maybe starting in October, November, December, January. It's definitely a winter deck for me, even though there's plenty of other seasons represented in the artwork. It just calls to me in those darker months, when I have gone inside of myself, when I'm slowed down, when I'm making space for reflection. This is just the perfect deck. It is a Lucy Cavendish deck, so the guidebook can be a touch confounding. I've heard this is the only Lucy Cavendish deck I own. So I can't personally speak to her as a creator, but what I have heard is like sometimes her deck, like the meanings in the guidebook don't always translate so well to the art and keywords. I haven't found that to be as much the case with this particular Oracle deck. It feels more cohesive. But yeah, there's just something like really, really darling about this deck. And it can help me move into more peacefulness. So I don't have to be in in my serenity to work with this deck. It often, it can help me get there. It can really bring me into that solitary delight. Yeah. It's a really lovely deck. I'm really glad I have it in my collection. Again, like, even if it's not a deck I initially thought I would go for, it has shown itself to be a really lovely companion in my emotional landscape. All right, folks, that brings us to the conclusion of this video. Thank you so much for joining me. Please like, subscribe, leave me a comment. Please let me know what decks really meet you in your emotional spaces. And definitely check out that other video that I mentioned if you enjoyed this one. I am sending you all kinds of love. Till the next video. Bye for now.